So that's the title for my talk.
I hope I have the clicker somewhere.
So what, that we have a big data somewhere. And first of all, let's define some of the stuff that is written there. First of all, let's start with big. Does it matter? And of course, in the context that we talk today, size doesn't matter. The big is important. And we have to talk about the data in a context of being big, and then we have to understand what this big means. So big data should scare us to some extent, and Hannes will do a perfect job, I think, to scare us all. So that's not my job today. And of course, we do that technology innovation for some purposes, and that mostly about the opportunities here, and we have to bear the responsibility over what we do. We have to take care that nothing bad happens with that. And to define this big for us now, in a context that we will probably talk further on, is that we talk about the big data in the context of being big in a volume, meaning that it's more than we can handle, more than you can handle as a person, we here as a group, probably more than your computer can handle, probably more than computers we have all together will handle. So that's big. It's a big punch of data, the volume is big. It changes very quickly, so that's the velocity of the data. It means that we have to deal with that data in a very rapid manner. So big data normally is about changes and targeting the change that happens now and will influence something in a second. So how to work with something like that. And then there is a wide variety of that data. So the big data, in a sense, is also interesting because it's not one kind of a data. It's all pictures that you take, the videos that you do, the documents that you write, and the stuff that your grandparents have somewhere stored in the archives years and years ago. It all may be one day a big data. So that's the context. The second thing that I would like to talk, so we talked about the big and the big data, and I would like to talk about data a little bit as well, because we mix up things when we talk, and me personally very much, because I'm not a, as you can guess, an English-speaking person, so therefore I would like to define the words. We talk about big data, and what is big is the data beneath here. From the data we normally get something we treat as information. From that information we get to the knowledge, and then we have the wisdom. The triangle there is informative in a sense that if the data beneath here is big, it makes some estimation for the fact that we might have more wisdom at the end. If the triangle underneath is very narrow, most probably the wisdom on top might be narrow as well. So that's where we talk about the different things that we know and we care about. So we should care about the knowledge that we'll, at the end of the day, we'll have. We don't have to so much worry about the data, because that's actually not very important in a day-to-day business. So what is important? So why it is important that the big data is here and does something? So why does it matter for us? As we said, we can't handle it. For us, it shouldn't actually matter. The most important thing why it matters is that technology learns differently than the person. Intelligent person is very good at something, and the thing that intelligent person does well is that they deduct from a very small sample data a wise decision, sort of. They make a decision from the very small amount of data. So they have some amount of samples and they say that, well, I predict that the next thing what will happen is such. Machines don't do that. Machines are not very good in that. The intelligent machine is intelligent in a sense that it will take a lot of data and it will predict on one single sample what will happen next very well. It will do so better, predictably better, than a person with a great mind. But the big data is important that this enables those machines to learn. If you don't have the big data, the machines are very poor in learning by themselves from nothing. So they don't observe us and they don't make great deductions out of their fantasy as we do. So this is the part why the big data is different, why it does matter. I think that the sample here, what probably matters for all of us is like, let's go to samples where the impact is. Medicine, for example, if you take the cancer patient going to the hospital and meeting the best doctor possible, that best doctor by heart knows 70, maybe up to 100 cases of a similar kind. Although in the world there are thousands of those. And therefore, the doctor does the prediction by themselves or puts the medicine into the veins of the person or treats them in chemotherapy based on those 100 cases. In the case of machine learning and in the case of technical intelligent machine, then it always takes into account all of those thousands of the cases. And therefore, it most probably gives you better treatment as a patient. So that's one of the parts. The other thing is that big data is very important for the clinical trials and the ways how we test out things. So we have a big set of genome data for Estonians, Germans, British people, whomever. And we can, based on that data, predict whether one or the other medicine will work on them or not. And we don't have to exactly put that patient through the pain of having that treatment before we know what will happen to them. We can simulate things, what will happen in a blood or in the organism as such. We all probably have been seeing that big data, especially from the velocity point of view, which we can't handle by ourselves, is very useful when we navigate somewhere. In our daily lives, I think that we navigate with cars here quite a lot, and that means that we will ask from the machine, where is the quickest road to the place I want to go? And that place might be something where I go on a daily basis. But the circumstances of today's traffic might be different than yesterday's, and I don't know that, but the machine can know that. It has some downsides, but that's the fact that if we look too much on that machine that tells us where to go and how to go, we kind of seem to lack the criticism about that. And it has been studied that the more we use the technology, the less we actually think ourselves. That is a threat in that kind of scenario. But it should open at the same time our minds to something different than actually the traffic navigation, like here. But if we only take pictures of our morning food on that time, what we now are free to use for something different, then maybe it's not the best thing to do with that. The shopping actually has changed quite a lot. The shop here is quite empty, as you see. How many of you have shopped in the last couple of weeks, something on an electronic shop somewhere, not on a physical shop? So some of you, not most of you yet. But the prediction is that most of you will very soon, because there are things that you can't buy at your corner shop, and there are some things that you don't want to buy from there, and therefore you order them in a package. And those shops that we have in the physical world, those could have, again, a prediction about their buyers and the things that they would like based on thousands of people. Today's Amazon shop predictions are based on millions of people, and therefore they are much, much better in estimating what is the necessary product they have to put on the shelf, what is something that you would like probably when you come to the shop. Something that we previously at all didn't know is that what else did you look when you bought something? You know, there is in a history we only knew from the shop records what was bought, but we didn't see the fact that you actually looked at the other product as well, but did put it back there, because you did not like that. We didn't find those data anywhere in the records. Now we do, and huge amount of them, and we don't therefore anymore buy in or we don't offer in the shops the things that people only look at, which are nice to see. So we have only the stuff that people buy, and we have pictures for those which are only nice to see. The other thing that has changed definitely is the fraud, which is, I don't know why it's in a credit cards, but this is one way of making fraud, the credit cards. But the fraud has changed, and also the deduction that something went wrong somewhere in the records. So we are much better at finding out that somebody is actually cheating in a system. Thanks to the big data, we are able real-time monitor that something went wrong. The current data center networks probably are something that a normal human being, if they would try to look through the logs of a data center, they wouldn't understand the thing. They would not find a pattern there, what went wrong, or if that at all went wrong. Maybe it was all very okay. So that's again something that the big data allows us to do, because of the fact that we are using the technology so much. We also need the technology actually to make sense of it, so what happens in the world, and to find those who are misusing that. And here are a couple of examples of the fact that although we are tackling today, as we see, democracy, and we're targeting democracy, the big data mostly is not about the things that you write on a Facebook, the things that you tweet about. The big data normally comes from the technology itself. So it comes from your phone, but it's not the thing that you do with the phone, but it comes from the phone, from the fact that it's a technology that records things that you do, the position it's in, the amount of electricity it takes at that point of time, the GPS coordinates of your phone, or of you basically, at the time. And you don't specifically do those things, they simply are there. And therefore they are available for the environment to use. And we are creating a huge amount of data, and we, at the point of making that data available, we don't actually know what we will use it for. We'll later on find out. Maybe somebody would like to find out our preferences for shopping, for traveling, for whatever, but it's something that the technology itself does. The plane sample here is actually showing up here because it actually allows people to do better decisions, of course. There's a huge amount of not wasted human time thanks to the fact that we are able to measure or predict well when the plane is going to land, which people don't normally do well. If you ask from the pilot a half an hour before they start to land, when will you actually land? What is the time you are going down? Believe me, the pilot has a lot more to do than actually predict very well the landing time. So they would put that time somewhere in an approximation of quarter of the hour, so 15 minutes. Not, a little bit there, a little bit there, on the other direction, doesn't matter. Somewhere like that I will land. But at the same time, there's a crew on a crowd, or a ground, who actually waits for that plane. If they are 10 minutes late or 10 minutes too early, it means that we all who are on the plane will waste our time. And we don't want to do that. So the planes and traffic as a whole will actually be much enriched thanks to the fact that we have this big data. We have actually given up a lot of work thanks to the big data, and coming back to this piloting, the pilots don't estimate anymore when they land. They did so 10 years, no, 2002 I think they started. So somewhere, like Henrik said, at 2000 we all expected pilot to know when they land. Now we don't. Now the plane knows when it is going to land, based on the fact that planes with a similar size, with a similar weather conditions, to that airport, they definitely kind of have some records about that, and they say that, well, based on the data from the history, we predict that this plane will land at that point of time. Okay, I will try to end now here my introductory speak to the big data, and it's about something we said earlier. So the data is not knowledge. The data only gives us possibility to have some kind of information. The human brain is still something that is very clever in coming up with the decisions on the data. And I think that the other thing that I wanted to point out here as an end thought was that the big data may be scary because I think that we are scared to lose our uniqueness. So I think that the next discussion will be about how somebody can predict what we do and how we do. But let's just assume that this is the way how it is. We are not so unique as we'd like to think. We are quite predictable. Given enough data to somebody, we are quite predictable. And it actually requires a lot of strength to not be predictable. So it is something that you all can do, not to be predictable. Like every time you think that I would like to take this sandwich because I've done so all the time, so it takes courage to take some other sandwiches. Yeah? So that's what you can do to actually be still unique and remain so. But I think that the big data is here to stay. The big data is something that we have started to use. It is economically feasible thing to do. It makes sense money-wise, and things that make sense money-wise, people don't stop using them. So if it doesn't make sense for good, it makes sense for bad, but it makes sense, and we will continue using that. And we have to take advantage over the things that we have as much as we can, not to be too scared about them. So that was my talk, and I will end here. Thank you.